original trilogy was developed by George Lucas and directed by multiple people, including George Lucas, Irvin Kershner, and Richard Marquardt, and is the story of Luke Skywalker, a young moisture farmer who yearns for adventure. And when he meets the old, wizardly Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, he begins his hero's journey and eventually must confront his deepest fears to become a Jedi Knight. Now, this series is one of the best series I've ever seen. It's so good, especially for its time period. The first film was released in 1977, and then 1980 for The Empire Strikes Back, and then 1983 for Return of the Jedi. And they all came together to create a really awesome, feel-good story for sci-fi lovers and really everybody to enjoy. Starting with the acting, all around, it is absolutely fantastic. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker is a wonderful casting choice, and I don't think that I could imagine anyone playing that role apart from Hamill now. He really embodied that yearning for adventure that Luke has in A New Hope, and then embodied his cockiness and his curiosity in The Empire Strikes Back, and he also embodied his absolute badassery in Return of the Jedi that cannot be overlooked. Harrison Ford as Han Solo is quite possibly one of the best casting choices ever, because he's so cool. He is insanely cool in all three of these movies. He's the type of person that you would want to be. You get the feeling that boys all around the world say, I want to be Han Solo, because he is just the best. In A New Hope, when he's sitting across Greedo, it's like he's in a spaghetti western, and it's so inspired to make Han that type of cowboy character amongst all the wizards and the fantasy and everything that makes Star Wars what it is. Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia was also an inspired choice. I hadn't seen her in anything before I watched Star Wars, and she was very, very good, but she wasn't a damsel in distress. At least she didn't feel like it, despite being a damsel in distress in A New Hope, which I quite liked. I liked the idea of one of the princess characters actually having skills of her own and being able to hold her own with the male characters. She wasn't better than any of them, but she wasn't worse either, which I think is the perfect balance. The special effects as well were wonderful, especially for the time. They were quite revolutionary. The use of the gimbals and the tracking and the introduction to green screen and blue screen techniques, and the use of a lot of practical effects with stuff like the ships and the explosions and the dogfights, which I found extremely rewarding. But in Return of the Jedi, which is the third movie, it was very noticeable at times, and it took me off guard. They relied way too much on the blue screen and green screen techniques in Return of the Jedi when compared to A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, who hardly used anything like that. And it was hardly noticeable because they didn't really use it. But in Return of the Jedi, they use it too often, and you can tell that they're using it as sort of a crutch, which I think was the wrong way to go about it. So I think if Return of the Jedi had used more practical backgrounds, like A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, then it would have benefited from that, I feel. Let's talk about the villains. Darth Vader is the best villain of all time. He is a badass, he is awesome, he's scary, he will kill his own men if they disobey him. If you mess up, he will kill you, and that made him such an unpredictable character. In A New Hope, he was a badass and he was scary. In Empire, they gave him a lot of emotional weight with the reveal.
No, I am your father.
was a kid, I was just sitting there like, no! Because I didn't want to believe that the most evil man in the galaxy was the father of our protagonist. That was just something that had never been done, especially in 1980. And it was a great twist on the formula that I absolutely adored. And in Return of the Jedi, the Emperor is introduced, who's slimy, he's dirty, holds his hands, hunches over, and yet he's still Darth Vader's superior, despite being physically inept when compared to Darth Vader. It's a token to the Emperor's inner strength, his powers, his connection to the Force, that despite his physical ineptness, Darth Vader is still subservient to him. And the scenes in Return of the Jedi with the Emperor, Luke, and Darth Vader were a thing of beauty. They were absolutely wonderful.
I'm looking forward to completing your training. In time, you will call me Master.
You're gravely mistaken. You won't convert me as you did my father.
Oh no, my young Jedi. You will find that it is you who are mistaken about a great many things.
Also in the films are stormtroopers. The stormtroopers do seem a little bit stupid, but it works for the silliness that the original trilogy gives off, because it can be silly as well as being serious, and it melds together in just the right way, I feel. A couple of small issues I have with Return of the Jedi. In the Sarlacc battle with Jabba the Hutt, who is a great animatronic / puppet, by the way, Luke's lightsaber in that scene behaves sort of like a baseball bat. It doesn't really cut through people like a lightsaber should, and I feel like that the film would have benefited from maybe a higher rating so that we can show Luke actually cutting up some people, because it just didn't look realistic to me. And also in Return of the Jedi, I don't like the Ewoks. They seem a little bit like a waste of time. They're adorable, but I feel like the film could have turned out the same if you didn't have them in there, which means that they weren't really that interesting. And also, when they're fighting the stormtroopers who are helmeted with rocks, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. There are so many awesome scenes in this trilogy. There's too many to count. From A New Hope, like the TIE fighter attack scene, you think that the danger has passed, but really it's only just begun, and I love that twist. In The Empire Strikes Back, Yoda's teachings are things that I were actually raised on, things that are important, things that matter. And as well as that, the Luke versus Darth Vader fight in The Empire Strikes Back is so intense, and it's shot so well. The cinematography and lighting is insanely good. It makes me feel such emotion, which is similar to the Darth Vader Luke fight in Return of the Jedi. As Luke is hiding, his face is split by the lighting. One half is in the light and one half is in the dark, which represents his inner turmoil, which is absolutely wonderful. I love the fight as well. The choreography is brilliant, and the music by John Williams, as always, is exceptional. Overall, I think the original trilogy is absolutely fantastic. Not all of the films are great. I have a lot of problems with Return of the Jedi, but I have a lot of respect for the trilogy, especially for A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, which I think are really, really fun. And with The Empire Strikes Back, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. The emotion, the story, the feelings are like no other movie to me. I'm going to grade the films individually. I'm going to give A New Hope an A-. I'm going to give The Empire Strikes Back an A+, and I'm going to give Return of the Jedi a B. But altogether, as a trilogy, I'm going to give the original Star Wars trilogy an A+.
Oh, yeah.
I think that even though Return of the Jedi isn't the best in terms of filmmaking, as a story, as a whole, Return of the Jedi adds a very, very powerful ending to the entire original trilogy. And I love it for that. I have a t-shirt of it. I do really like the film. There's just a lot of things that I take issue with on a filmmaking level. But when I look past that, it adds to the trilogy in a fulfilling way. And so I think that this trilogy deserves an A+. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more, please let me know. I'll see you later.